folks, in this video we're going to be talking about paper grain, everyone's favourite subject. Probably not. But all you have to do is remember that with paper grain, it's the direction that the fibres go in the paper. They either go up and down or they go across. So if they go up and down, it's long grain. If they go across, it's short grain. This comes about when paper is made by a machine. It goes through rollers which force those fibres in a certain direction. Now, these rollers make huge sheets of paper which are then cut down into smaller sheets and sent to different art supply stores. And then when the art supply stores receive their sheets of paper, the direction of the grain may be going up and down for long grain or across for short grain. And it's up to us to figure it out, but I promise it is super easy. So let's head to the work table and I'll show you how to figure it out. When you purchase paper from a well-known manufacturer, they're going to tell you the dimensions, so 7 by 10, but it might appear as 10 by 7. And 9 times out of 10, that second number will indicate the direction of the grain. So in this instance, it says 10, and that means that the grain is parallel to the long side, the 10-inch side. However, you cannot always rely on that because I will tell you, this is one of my favorite pads of paper, and it says 8 by 10, but actually the grain runs parallel to that first number, not the second. If in doubt and you're ordering online, you can always call the manufacturer to double check. But what I'm going to do is show you how to figure it out without relying on the manufacturer to tell you. So I have this small sheet of paper, and the best way to determine paper grain is by feel, just using and trusting your hands. So we're going to place it, our palms up, we're going to place the paper in our palms, and we're going to bring the sides towards the middle like this. We're going to see how that feels. Which bend gives us most resistance? So we're going by feel. So I can feel this way, that feels okay. When I bend this way, I get a lot of resistance. This is pushing against me. This way is a lot easier. So that tells me that the grain is running this way, because this is easy. That's the grain long ways. This is hard, and that's the short way. That is not the way the grain is going. But let's just say, you know, you're new and you're just not feeling it. You're just like, I just can't feel it. If you can spare a piece of paper, so say you've got a big pad, I would sacrifice one sheet of this paper and fold it. So if it's a very large sheet, you've only got one, you can fold it at the bottom edge. But if you've got a pad of say 20, I would sacrifice one piece to figuring out the grain. And so I know that the grain runs parallel to the long edge, so it's long grained. If I fold it, just crease it with my finger, you can see that gives me a nice fold. If I do it the opposite direction against the grain, can you see what happens? It cracks. When we fold against the grain, this paper is going to crack. You see that? That's not good for making a book. I smooth that with a bone folder, and this becomes the spine of my book. Eventually it's going to crack, and that's not what we want. Because if I fold with the grain, it's nice and smooth. This becomes the spine of my book or part of my accordion. It's a much nicer fold. If you're still unsure, another test, let's sacrifice another piece of paper. Another test is to take a spray bottle of water and really soak that paper, and we're going to see it bend. And it's going to bend in the direction of the grain. So let me just spritz this. You see I've really soaked this paper. Do you see how it's bending? How it's curling? See how that's curling? That's curling towards the middle like this. Those two long edges are curling in. So that tells me that the grain runs this way. If it's curling the other way, then it would be grain short. See how those edges are coming in? That So this tells me the grain runs this way. But one thing to know is that the thicker your paper, the more the paper grain matters. If you are working with a thinner paper, it's going to matter a whole lot less. But if you're working with a thick 140-pound watercolor paper, this is where it's really going to matter about the paper grain, and it's hard to get away with going against the grain. But if you're using a thin paper like a copier or a 50-pound sketch paper, it's going to be less important. If you have any questions about paper grain, please, please, please leave a comment below and I would be happy to help.